Welcome back to our Lenten retreat. I am Father Josef Briffa, a Jesuit priest. I teach archaeology here at the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Rome and also in Jerusalem, where I am also director of the same institute. Well, over these coming sessions, we will be looking at the story of the healing of the blind man at the pool of Siloam, a story that we find in the Gospel of John, chapter 9. Before delving into the reflection, I would suggest reading the Gospel story itself, which forms the whole of chapter 9. It may help you this week to try and imagine yourself in this story, imagining it, living it from the perspective of the blind man. Perhaps you may wish to pause this video here for a moment to read the Gospel passage slowly, carefully, before delving deeper. We are not told where the first encounter takes place, only that Jesus had just gone out of the temple. Beggars, such as this blind man, would gather along the roads leading to the temple. Then, as they do today along the road of El-Wad, the road that leads to the mosques of Haram al-Sharif as well as to the Western Wall. Jesus, we are told, spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes. Imagine yourself now as this blind man at the center of this very earthy, very tactile scene. Here Jesus sends you down to the pool of Siloam to wash yourself. This ancient pool from Roman times has been excavated in recent years, and the blind man would almost certainly have needed to go down the road, far down, as the pool is almost at the bottom of the valley. It is a very elegantly built pool, likely used for ritual purifications, among other things. The blind man washed his eyes and sees. He sees for the first time. We are told he is blind since birth, and experiences for the first time this vibrant and busy city through his eyes. It is the time of the Festival of Booths, the Feast of Sukkot. Let us now focus on the words of the beggar and his interactions. His replies are very pragmatic, very down-to-earth, sometimes even telegraphic. He replies, "I am he," for example, to those who doubted his identity as the blind man. His "I do not know" when he is asked about the whereabouts of his healer. His own description of the miracle is also very no-frills. And I quote, "The man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and said to me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' Then I went and washed and received my sight." Perhaps we would like to stop and reflect on this. Do I recognize the places where I have encountered God's action in my own life? As I narrate these actions, first of all to myself, am I able to narrate them in their wonderful, powerful simplicity, as this blind man manages to do? In a world particularly dominated by the media, by influencers, by sensationalism, am I able to see through all of that, to recognize God powerfully at work in the world, in my life, often in very simple ways, often in very understated ways? The man's interaction continues with the crowd and with the religious authorities. His first answer to the question of what he thinks of Jesus is a very lapidary, "He is a prophet." And when asked further, his reply is intriguingly powerful and once more pragmatic. "I do not know whether he is a sinner. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." And pushed further, he elaborates, "Here is an astonishing thing. You do not know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes." The man speaks out of his own experience of Jesus, his own experience of Jesus' action in his life, out of the fruit that he sees, that he sees quite literally. And here too we may pause to reflect. Do I let God's action in my life guide me in the way that I see the world, the way that I read my faith? Am I open to the hope that is in me, thanks to God's action? Am I open to sharing my hope with others, even when it may cost? The final encounter is with Jesus himself. After the healed blind man is driven out by the community, he encounters Jesus again. Once again, to Jesus' question, his words are simple. "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" And once Jesus identifies himself, the man replies very simply, "Sir," or "Lord," well, the Greek doesn't distinguish, "I believe." And he prostrates himself in adoration. The man's faith is one of encounter, one of relationship, rather than of theoretical understanding. And here once more we take a step back. Do I recognize the Lord at work in my life? Do I recognize him as Lord when I see what action happens in my life? Is the Lord the source of my healing, the source of my hope, often in a world that is broken, that is hopeless? May I also wish you all the very best on the continuation of this retreat as we continue to move towards Easter.